Hey guys, so you can see that I'm doing a post-com here. Uh, there was a problem when we were originally doing the battle. I disconnected, and lucky enough, Tyler actually let us make up the battle. What we did was we just followed where we were on Showdown, got to pretty much the same point, um, but you can't reenact everything perfectly. So there were a few discrepancies, but it's pretty much the same outcome. And then, if you notice, they didn't matter too much anyway. So it's nothing too much to worry about. Um, as you can see, he brought the Magerna, the Heatran, the Shedinja, uh, the Crook, the Tentacruel, and the Roserade. Um, and I didn't expect to see the Shedinja at all. Um, the Crook I kind of expected. Everything else I kind of expected. The Heatran, if it's an air balloon, can be terrifying just because I might not be able to hit it. The Magearna could be set up. The Shedinja could also be set up. And the Crooks might be scarfed, might be rocks, who knows. The Tentacruel is probably defensive or specially defensive. The Roserade as well. So we're just going to get in this battle. I'll switch sides. So he leads with the Shedinja. Originally in the battle, he led with the Heatran. I led with my Raikou, but I switched out anyway because I used Aura Sphere, so nothing happened. So I switch out. All this is just original switch outs to uh, mock the battle. I think we went to turn like 25 in the original battle. Um, so right here, you can see he goes for the sub just because he did in the original battle. He wasn't sure if it would work or not, but it didn't, and I had to switch out, go back into Raikou, predicting he'd switch out, which he does, and then he goes into here, into Crocodile, so I have to switch out again, and I go into my Skarmory, uh, and my Skarmory can pretty much wall the Crook. And when I see how much damage it does there, 57%, I do know that it is banded. So it'll be locked into whatever move it does, but it's going to be doing a butt ton of damage to me. So I just have to be more careful with that. Play around it. So I can roost up here, no problem. I can take whatever hit he's going to do to me. And I knew I could roost up. And then I knew I could roost one more time to get my sturdy back. So that was the main goal there. And on it, he switches out in the Heatran. And then out here, I was thinking, okay, I'm at full health. I have my sturdy. So I'm just going to get rid of his air balloon because that's what's holding his Heatran back for me. If there's any way I can get rid of it, it's the most important thing. Heatran can't kill my Skarmory in this one hit anyway, so there was nothing too much for me to worry about. And then it actually goes for that taunt, so I went for the Iron Head anyway. So I hit it, and I knock off that air balloon, which is super important. And then I figured I can just get up on out, because why risk my Skarmory like that? So here I go into Arcanine, because Arcanine can outwall it. You can hit it with that Bulldoze. And I do just that. I go for the Bulldoze. It goes for the Stealth Rocks on the switch. So I hit this with the Bulldoze, and then when its speed lowers, I immediately know it's Liquid Ooze and not Clear Body. That's big for me to know for the Giga Drain on my Celebi. Then I switch out back into my Bird Slide because I figure this doesn't really have anything for it. It can't really hit me with anything, and then as soon as it gets up spikes, I can defog, which I then do here. And in defogging, it's important to do that because I really don't want everything on my team getting poisoned. I don't want everything getting chip as well. So he does get that burn. In the original match, he didn't. Um, we are still reenacting our original match, but originally didn't get that burn, but it doesn't matter too much anyway. You'll see in a bit. So I go into my Celebi here, knowing that it can completely take on that. I know it can completely take on that Tentacruel. And when he switches in here into Crook, he's predicting the Celebi switch, which is a good call on his part. I won't be able to outspeed, so I know I have to switch out. So that he actually makes a double into his Magearna. And here I thought he might be set up at that point, just because with the way he switched it in, he figured he could probably get a good switch. I know here I can't take a Volt switch, so I do have to switch out. And I go into my Arcanine, which is built to a hard wall this. And you'll see this here. I'm pretty sure that specs damage, and it doesn't do much. It does 45%. So I can completely take on this Magearna, and he sees that too at this point. So he sends out Shedinja to try to protect, and I figured I'd go for a Willow because he wasn't gonna keep it in. I went for a Willow, figuring he wasn't gonna keep it in, and if he went out to Crook, which is what I predicted, Willow on a banded Crook would be huge. He does go out to this, and in the original match I landed the first Willow, so you see him go for sub here just so that I land the second Willow, and it doesn't really matter. But I really did want that Willow on the Crook, thinking that it was going to come in. It didn't, but it would have been huge there. And then it goes down to sub here. It goes down to burn. So then he gets that clean swap in a Crook. I have to switch out. I don't outspeed this thing again. So here I go back into my Skarmory, thinking it's probably just going to EQ or knock off again. But he makes the smart prediction, and he Stone Edges. And in the original match, he Stone Edged, and then he Stone Edged again, and he killed me. But you'll see here he actually misses quite a few times. In the original match, I just clicked Roost, and he killed me before I even got the Roost off, so I did the same. But he misses a few turns here, and which can have some effect in the later game because he can spam Stone Edge, but it doesn't matter too much, just because I still could have killed it with things left at the end of the game, which I'll go over. But you'll see this here. Here I was fine getting rid of my Skarmory, purely because I didn't have it left for anything else on his team. The only thing it would have been good for was Roserade. He got killed by everything else though, so I was fine getting rid of it, and I didn't have anything to switch into a banded Stone Edge anyway. So just to make up for the turns, I'd start spamming Defog here, purely so that I'm not doing anything else to him, and he can still kill me. And if anything, if he does keep missing, I'll go down to the burn. And it was soon after this that we get back into our normal turns. But now you can see me in the chat. It's not good. And this is when I'm starting to feel really bad about the disconnect, just because it's not going the same way that it did in the original match. I ended up disconnecting twice in that original match too. The second time was when I couldn't reconnect back in time, and he couldn't turn off the timer, so we ended up fully disconnecting, but we didn't exit out of the battle, so that's where we made it up. So I go into Gren here, fully expecting that clean switch, and I ran the calcs. I do actually live this banded Stone Edge, so if he tries to stay in, that's a dead Crook, and he's not going to get rid of his Crook right now. It does way too much work to my team. So I knew he was going to switch out. So in order for that clean swap, I actually go for that U-turn, which gives me that easy, clean switch back into Arcanine. And Arcanine, like we saw, fully walls this thing. And here I go for that Bulldoze, just because anything switching in is going to lose speed, and then Arcanine can outspeed it anyway, or anything that I switch into it. And he switches in his Tentacruel, and I notice I do quite a bit of damage to it, and in doing that quite a bit of damage, I actually have, I can knock this thing out in 2 hits, and in knocking this out in 2 hits, I get rid of him being able to put up toxic spikes, and if I wanted to, with my Mammo later in the game, I could put up rocks, and he wouldn't be able to spin them away either. So I figured I could definitely take a Scald as well, because it's not built to do a lot of damage. So in my Arcanine being built fully specially defensive, it can actually take a Scald pretty well. It can't get burned, obviously, so me getting off that Bulldoze is way more important than anything else if I can kill this thing. So you will see that he does go for a Scald when I go for that Bulldoze. I almost kill it. And if I crit there, I would have killed it as well. So that's what I was hoping for. But see, the Scald, negligible damage. And here, I just go for another Bulldoze, because if I could get the kill, why not? And whatever he switches into, it's still going to take a good amount of damage, and will be slower. He switches in that Crook, and I do weaken it a little bit, but I know I can't take this on still. I debated a lot if I wanted to get off that Willow, but I didn't want to miss. And I didn't want him to switch into Heatran for that Flash Fire boost as well. So I switch right into Celebi here, thinking that he's going to Earthquake, which he does. And here I know I can get off a good amount of damage with a Giga Drain. And he doesn't know how I'm built yet, so I could be Scarfed. So I do get that Giga Drain off on the Magearna, which just gives me a little bit of health back. But I can carry that Earth Power, so I'll go for that here. Get a good amount of damage, and I do land a crit here. I don't remember if in the original match if I did land a crit here. I think I landed one at some point. It might have been on the Magearna. I'm not sure. This damage is negligible as well, though. With just the way it was going to work out, I was going to kill this no matter what anyway. With Mammo, I'm assuming when it switched back in. But it does make this thing kind of useless to him, which I do feel bad for. I might have landed that crit in the original match, but he lands that Ice Beam there. And here I'm thinking he's not going to sack his Magearna, so I do go for that U-turn. I think in that match I did land a crit there because he did switch out. And this is where we disconnected in the original match, where I landed that U-turn on Crook. And then I go into my Gren, because he doesn't really have a swap in anymore, and I figured I could have gone for that extra sensory, because he wasn't going to stay in with Crook, and gotten huge damage off on the Roserade, which would be coming in, or the Tentacruel, which would be coming in. But at this point, I just wanted good damage off on those, because I know, looking at his team right now, Mammo can pretty much sweep through. And once I have damage on all of those, if I can get Crook worn down a little bit more as well, I can pretty much sweep through with Mamoswine. So I just go for a Surf here, because I do get a lot of damage off on this. In case it's sashed or anything, just getting that damage off is good. And I originally had Hydro Pump on that set, like I said, and Hydro Pump was actually a 2-hit KO on this thing, which I really wanted to have, because Hydro Pump pretty much ran through the rest of his team here. But I couldn't risk the miss. You saw how many times Stone Edge missed. So I have that clean swap right into Arcanine. He goes for a Sludge Bomb on the switch, though, and that is a 2-hit KO. So my Arcanine will go down here. If he landed another min roll, I actually lived, so I went for that Morning Sun. But he got that max roll, knocked me out, which doesn't matter too much. It's just a little bit of odds game. So I have that clean swap into my Mammo. I go for an Ice Shard here because I know he will outspeed me. I could have gone for anything else. I could have predicted with an Earthquake, but there's no reason to. Ice Shard was the best move on anything else. Anything I didn't need Ice Shard for, I'd kill with an Earthquake. That's what I do here. And I figured he'd go back in a Crook. which he does after. And because of Intimidate, I don't know if I'd be able to kill with an Ice Shard. So I do switch out. Back into Celebi, sacking this off. Feels bad to sack Celebi like that, but it does give me insight on his superpower. And I couldn't risk the Mamoswine. So I send Mamo back in. Ice Shard is another move I can just spam again. There's no reason not to. So he sends in his Tentacruel to sack off again. It's the same thing. Ice Shard and an EQ. He has no switch-ins to Mamo at this point. So anytime he switches out, anytime he sends out Crook, I get a clean swap and a Mamo. Something dies, or he loses if he chooses to sack off Crook. So he sends Crook back in, and here I really wanted to go for that Ice Shard, but I knew Roserade still kind of walled my Gran. So I go into Raikou to sack this thing off, and he actually goes for Superpower instead of Earthquake. And in doing that, I actually get one more hit off on this thing, which is huge. I actually go for Shadow Ball here, and this matters. This matters in who would get kills. You'll see in a second what I mean. Because right here, I know I win. As soon as he switched in here, and I knew I was getting damage off on the Heatran, it matters on who's getting kills here. But that special defense decrease does matter on who's getting those kills. Right here, I wanted him to Earth Power my Raikou, kill it, and Grand would get these 3 kills. I'd spam Surf. He'd switch out of Heatran into Roserade, most likely trying not to sack Heatran. I'd kill Roserade in a 2-hit KO and sweep the rest of his team. If he didn't switch, I would have Surf again. So if he didn't switch, I'd kill the Heatran with Surf. And then he'd probably switch into the Roserade, and I'd probably go into Mamo at that point. So that's sacking this off might have been his best decision. But I don't know if he would. But right here, getting this extra Shadow Ball damage off on the Roserade is what guarantees the win. And I do end up killing it here. And this guaranteed the win right here. Because now I can just sacrifice Raikou. He has to bring in Crook anyway. And once I get this little bit of Shadow Ball damage, I think even with an Intimidate, I win with Ice Shard. But I don't end up using Ice Shard in here. I just send out Gren, and I just surf everything, because once that Roserade's done, that's all I need to do. Yep, and that's game. So Tyler, if you watch this, I am sorry that it turned out like this. It's obviously never my intention to disconnect, and it sucks that it happened this way. We had a great battle. It was a great battle, well fought, 2-0. Could have swung either way. Big plays of the game where that double switch you had, which definitely turned momentum into your favor. But me being able to predict the Earthquake switch in, getting in Celebi, and predicting the switch of the Crocodile, and getting off that U-turn with Celebi on the Magearna to get an Arcanine was a big momentum shifter back into my favor, just because I was able to get an Arcanine for free pretty much on the Magearna. Very good battle. I kind of would have been excited to see how that original battle went, assuming it would have gone similar to this. There's a little bit of hacks, like on that Heatran at the end, and the Stone Edge on Crocodile, him missing quite a few times, which allowed you not to be able to spam it at the end. But I think, all in all, it was a well-fought battle, very even. Not looking forward to facing your team again week 7. It will probably destroy mine. So, thanks again, you guys. and I'll see you next time.